Part 73. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 730. Seeing that the translation girl looks good, the director suggested to reduce the cost, take some losses, personally go into battle, and let her be the female number one, but the translation girl scolded her bloody. In response to the current situation in the morning, Lu Feng called everyone to the conference room for a meeting, and judged the current understanding of Roma Semiconductor Group, especially their internal situation. Judging from the information collected from various sources, except for Shimo Watanabe, the insiders don't seem to care much about Ruxin Laboratory, and because the economic bubble burst, they need funds to return blood, and they also have the motivation to sell Ruxin Laboratory. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the translation girl knocked on Lu Feng's door, walked in and said, "Mr. Lu, everyone has been found." "How's the actress?" "Are you good looking?" Lu Feng asked. He knew that in order for a fish to be hooked, the bait must be good. "There are photos here, why don't you meet me?" The translation girl obviously got the wrong idea and said to him, "We can just have a little more money." "What? What did you say?" Lu Feng grinned and said to her, "I'm the kind of lecherous person in your eyes." The translation girl is a little confused, isn't she? "You were angrier than anyone else at the bar that day. There's no need to explain it to you. When you really get to know me, you'll understand that I'm one of the few lotus flowers in the world. Don't think of me with that kind of thinking. You don't need to meet me. It's not convenient for me to show up. Take a look at the photos." Lu Feng said towards her. The translation girl handed over the photo. Lu Feng took a look at it and it was really beautiful. "No problem. There are a lot of night dreams in the province. I'll do it today. Is the venue ready? Cameras, voice recorders, etc." Lu Feng asked. "It's all arranged." Lu Feng stood up and looked at the time playfully and said, "The actors are in place, the hunting begins." Called Liukan and Jin Tingting, rented a nanny car, and parked the car next to the Cultural and Creative Leisure Park not far from Roma Semiconductor Group. The director was already familiar with the script, and the exciting drama was about to kick off. Inside the car, Jin Tingting watched Lu Feng and Lu Cheng staring intently at the entrance of the headquarters building. She felt a little embarrassed and absurd. The excited look on her face really made her a girl who didn't know what to say. This method is sure to work. Lu Cheng's eyes were sore, and his excitement dropped by more than half. It's definitely possible. No man can refuse such a request. I didn't think of this plan temporarily. It's a classic fraud case that actually happened in China, Lu Feng said casually. This case really exists. There are still a lot of people who have been fooled. Another classic case of street fraud is a well-dressed girl who said that she lost her wallet while traveling, and asked you to provide some help. When the parents send the money, it will be doubled back. Jin Tingting and Lu Cheng's eyes changed. They stared at Lu Feng suspiciously. What was he doing before? "What do you two look at?" "Look at me, I'm serious." Lu Feng raised his voice. "Aren't you a swindler?" Jin Tingting looked at him and teased. "Then you have been fooled by this kind of thing. No matter which one you are not a good person." "I heard it too," Lu Feng explained, but looking at the expressions on their faces, he knew that it was useless to explain. They didn't believe it at all. Lu Cheng was secretly worried about the company's future. He wouldn't be surprised when the police overturned the case and arrested Lu Feng. "Come out." Lu Feng saw Watanabe Chi walking out. He was not tall and had a slightly bloated figure. When he came out, he aimed at a few good-looking little girls, and only then did he reluctantly withdraw his gaze until the other party walked away. "Go to the parking lot." In the parking lot, the translator girl and the director were already waiting. Seeing Shi Watanabe approaching, the director hurried up and said, "Hello, sir, please wait a moment, so it's inconvenient to do me a favor. It's like this, I'm a little movie director." Watanabe Shi, who was originally impatient, opened the car door and was about to get in the car. Hearing the words "little movie," he stopped his movements abruptly, looked at the director and smiled and said, "What can I do to help?" "To yours." "That's it, sir, we want to shoot a professional class now, it's that kind of professional attire." Oh, I understand, what nabe." She smiled lewdly and nodded again and again. "There is a lack of a male lead now. I wonder if you are willing to sacrifice for art? Of course, we will give you some nutritional fees, but it will not be too high." The director looked at him after saying that. What nabe? She was excited. He didn't expect such a good thing to fall on his head, but he was not a fool. He noticed something wrong at the first time and asked, "Then why don't you do it yourself?" "I originally planned to come by myself, but I look like..." The director showed an embarrassed expression and said embarrassedly, "Unlike the boss, we were not going to shoot, and when we saw you, I want to come and ask and see if you are willing to help." When he said that, the plot seemed to be coherent, and what nabe? She's face couldn't hide his happiness, and asked, "Can I meet the heroine?" "Yummy," the director shouted not far away, and waved, "Come here." A slender, sweet-looking girl came over, wearing a black professional skirt, a white shirt on the upper body, high heels on her feet, her hair tied up, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses, came over and bowed slightly. "Excuse me, my name is Yummy, please give me more advice." "It's all right, I'm a very dedicated person, where is the filming?" What nabe? She couldn't wait. "That's it, let's make it clear to you first that the filming time is relatively long, and that, according to the law, we will not release your related videos in this country to protect your reputation. If you have no problem, now we will let's go," the director said. "It's so considerate, I didn't even think about these things, let's walk around." What nabe? She said impatiently. There was a car in front of the director, and Masami got into what nabe? She's car and sped away one after the other. Inside the commercial car, Lu Feng leaned back on his chair and said, "Okay, it's done." Jin Tingting knew that things wouldn't go wrong, but it was going too smoothly, right? "Are we going to the filming location?" Lu Cheng asked. "What are you thinking?" "Go back to the hotel," Lu Feng gave him a white look. This guy seemed to be honest, but he didn't expect to have the same dirty mind as himself. After 8 o'clock in the evening, the translation girl settled the bills for everyone, and put a copy of the original film, a stack of photo negatives, and a copy of the recording on the table. In the conference room, several people looked at these things with subtle expressions. Lu Feng cleared his throat and said sternly, "The killing sword has been sharpened. I believe these things are sharper than the long sword, no matter whether the process is so upright or not, as long as we can get a correct result, it is good. Now we have to do it." The first thing they do is to counterattack. They have suppressed it for so long, and now it is our turn to contact the local lace tabloid, code the face of the photo, and release it. Tomorrow, Ichiro Hirata will be officially notified that we will start the second round. Negotiation. Go to bed early. Zhangjiang's lace tabloids are already quite explicit, but compared to this, they seem to be insignificant. What nabe? She originally planned to go out for a drink and find a girl, but he went home directly after finishing the matter, with 1,000 hard-earned money. I sighed inwardly, I couldn't make any money, so I took a rest after a simple wash. The next day, many lace magazines put what nabe's coded photo on the cover, and the keyword on the cover is the forbidden love in the office. Because it involved the Rome group, the news exploded rapidly. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the Rome Semiconductor Group issued a statement, stating that the unscrupulous rumor-mongering would take legal action, and it did not admit that the photo was Mr. Watanabe, an executive of the group. When Watanabe saw the photo on the cover, he was dumbfounded. He refused to admit to the board's inquiry at the first time, and then began to want to spend money to make peace. He called the director yesterday, but the call was not available. People pick up. At 10:30 in the morning, Shi Watanabe left the company in a hurry. The entire headquarters was watching his jokes, and Hirata Ichiro couldn't straighten his back while sitting in the office laughing. The phone on the table rang, and Hirata Ichiro picked up the phone and asked with a smile, "Which one?" "It's me, Lu Feng from GFN Electronics. I hope to restart the second business negotiation. We are really sincere about Ruxin Lab," the translation girl translated into the phone. When he received a call from Lu Feng at such a time, Hirata Ichiro couldn't help laughing. He used his toes to think about what was going on here. He thought about it carefully. This method made his back cold. "No problem, I'll report this matter, and there will be news tomorrow at the latest, but I can't guarantee that there will be tension at the meeting." Hirata Ichiro tested how many trump cards Lu Feng had in his hand. Lu Feng sat on the sofa and heard this, smiled and said, "Don't worry, he will support you." "Okay," Hirata Ichiro said politely and hung up the phone. Lu Feng sat there and thought for a while, and said to the translation girl, "Call Watanabe Shi." When I called Watanabe Shi's office, the secretary answered and said that he was off work, and asked for his home number, but the other party didn't tell him. "What should I do?" The translation girl looked at Lu Feng and asked a little. "Call Yoshida Toiki, he must know." After the call was connected, Yoshida Dong-I learned that it was Lu Feng, a little surprised, and said, "What? I figured it out. Let me tell you, it's not too late. It's not too late until your company goes down. Maybe I'm going to disappoint you. I came to ask Watanabe Shi's phone number and tell him some good news. If your good friend is not obedient, he may lose his job." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 731. Yoshida Dong-I still didn't know what was going on. When he heard Lu Feng's strong tone, he instantly exploded, and yelled into the phone, "What did you say? Who speaks, a mere small company in mainland China, dare to challenge me?" Yoshida Dong-I started yelling from behind. His words were nothing more than that, "You are a company whose core technology relies on UMC and Mediatek. If you follow them, you will irritate others, and you can be ruined in one sentence." Hearing these words, Lu Feng's expression was extremely ugly. Although it sounds impossible to achieve in business behavior, especially Yoshida Dong-I is not the boss of the group, but the specific implementation is possible. "I'm here to ask Watanabe Shi's phone number. It's fine if you don't tell me. As for killing GFN Electronics, you can get one for me to see," Lu Feng said with a gloomy face. "Motorola is big, but it's not too big. Invincible on a global scale. You still have a chance now. Go to the newspaper to apologize. My patience is limited. Watanabe-san will call you. You can think about it yourself." Yoshida Dong-I hung up the phone after saying the phone number. The translation girl saw that Lu Feng's face was not good looking, and asked timidly, "Are you fighting now?" "Wait a while." Lu Feng took a deep breath and let this bastard get mad at him. If he didn't shit Motorola in the mainland, he would be sorry for such a good executive. A few minutes later, Lu Feng calmed down and called Watanabe Shi. After it rang for a while, Watanabe Shi just answered the phone. He was busy calling the major media just now, hoping to suppress this matter, and he was also consulting a lawyer. "Moshi Moshi," Watanabe Shi answered the phone. "Who are you?" "It's me, your old friend, Lu Feng from GFN Electronics." "Mr. Watanabe, what are you doing?" Lu Feng asked casually, leaning on the sofa. When Watanabe Shi heard that it was Lu Feng, his heart burst into flames. He still didn't understand that if what happened yesterday was tricked by someone, then his old age would be in vain. "What on earth are you trying to do? I tell you, all this is fake. I will prove it," Watanabe Shi shouted lowly. "When you're done with your proof, the day lily is cold, Lu Feng was about to say his purpose, but he hurriedly realized that the phone call might be recorded on the other side. "But it's all over. Thinking of this, Lu Feng hurriedly changed the conversation and said, "Of course I congratulate you, working in a big company like yours, the benefits are really good, the office is provided by the company, the car is provided by the company, and even the lover is provided by the company." Watanabe Shi already had the recorder in his hand, so he waited for Lu Feng to give him the opportunity to turn over, and said, "Lu Feng-kun, there is actually no grudge between us, you set up such a game, let me play go in, just say what you want, I promise you." Lu Feng heard this. He was 100% sure that this old man was holding a recorder in his hand. Lu Feng smiled and said, "I don't need anything. You didn't tell me that day. Your secretary is so energetic and the office is so exciting. I think well, you should pay more attention, this time I was secretly photographed, so go back and check the office thoroughly. It's all yours to do, you wait for me." Watanabe Shi couldn't speak, he became angry and roared, "I found someone to do you." "Very well, I have recorded the sentence. I will record it at the police station, including the embassy. Before I leave here, if I encounter a little problem, you can't eat it." Lu Feng and other translators. After the girl finished speaking, she pressed the hang up button. Watanabe's hizzy went crazy, he picked up the phone on the table and slammed it on the ground, his mouth full of 8 grid teeth. Lu Feng originally wanted to make a deal with Shi Watanabe, but now it seems that this deal cannot be done. As soon as he speaks out, the other party may record it, and the game is broken. There is only one way left. He was ruined. Go find some more lace newspapers, preferably those with TV news, and spread more photos and recordings tomorrow, and at the same time point the finger at selling out the interests of the group. Lu Feng instructed the translation girl, "I need him tomorrow." Suspended. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in the chairman's office, Hirata Ichiro once again placed an evaluation report of Ericsson's laboratory on Sakata's desk. "Mr. Chairman, please listen to my opinion. This asset is really not important to us. It has been on the shelf for several years. It is something that has been eliminated by the times. Now GFN Electronics still wants to negotiate. I think this is the moment when the interests are maximized," Ichiro Hirata said solemnly. Sakata looked at the report and sighed, "What do you think of Watanabe-san? He and I are both for the good of the company. No matter how we argue, we always think about it together, but everyone has different opinions," Hirata Ichiro explained. Sakata didn't want to push this matter at this time. It was originally a small matter. Now that there was a problem with Watanabe Shi, he came here and put the report here. It was not appropriate and affected internal unity. After saying something neither salty nor bland, Hirata Ichiro was sent back. In the evening, Lu Feng communicated with him on the phone, and he mainly talked about internal issues. If he wanted Sakata to agree to this matter, either Watanabe Shi left completely, or he was completely fine, boss. Still have to consider the feelings of the executives. Lu Feng said on the phone, "Don't worry, wait quietly for a few days, anyway, it was originally planned to be done in a week, but now it's been procrastinating for almost a month, not bad for the past few days." The next day, with the outflow of recordings and more photos, the entire business community of Fuzhang was quickly detonated. This incident was called the office door by the media. Executives like Watanabe Shi did such a thing in the office. It is simply appalling, and the recording also involves bribery, benefit transfer, and negotiation and banquets with major partners around the world. This time, let alone Watanabe, even the Roma group couldn't handle it. Numerous partners were dragged into the water by it, and the entire public opinion was boiling, and the relevant departments had to symbolically announce a thorough investigation. In the afternoon, the Roma group claimed to the public that there was no such a secretary. Shi Watanabe's secretary was a male. Although he kept refuting rumors, when public opinion hit like a flood, no one cared about the truth. The Roma Group's stock price plummeted by 1/117th of the time, the development of things was a little out of control. On the same day, the group conducted a thorough investigation of Watanabe, and Watanabe was also very calm, telling everything about what happened, and pointing the finger at Lu Feng. In the face of the chairman, he even claimed that he could kill himself by cutting himself to make it clear. But Ruxin Laboratory must not be sold to GFN Electronics. The meeting room was a little quiet, and Watanabe felt that everyone didn't believe his words, and said emotionally, "I can really cut myself to make it clear, I definitely didn't do it." Hirata Ichiro sat next to him and glanced at the crowd, and said, "I believe Watanabe-kun, Secretary Naoki, bring the knife." Naoki is very embarrassed. Isn't Hirata Ichiro adding fuel to the fire? Sakata cleared his throat and felt that he should say something, otherwise Watanabe would not be able to commit suicide today, and said, "True or false is not important, the important thing is that now the public opinion is surging outside, we need to calm down the anger." Watanabe was dumbfounded. He has worked in this company for 20 years, and he has worked hard without credit. Didn't Sakata mean to say that he should take the blame and resign first, and then re-employ him? He does not accept it, his dignity does not allow such an insult. "I resign." Watanabe stood up and shouted, "I won't come back. For 20 years here, I have been in the company of a group of cowards, and I have no development. I am still supporting companies such as Motorola. I have said more than once. Yes, embrace Wall Street, embrace capital, grow and develop, I resign." Watanabe-san, Sakata got anxious, stood up and tried to persuade. Watanabe turned his head and bowed to everyone, his face sinking like water, "I've caused everyone trouble, goodbye." After saying that, he left without looking back. There are dozens of senior executives in the conference room, and everyone has different thoughts. Some people are glad that he finally got out, and some people feel sorry. No matter what, he has decided to leave. In the evening, Roma Semiconductor Group announced that Watanabe resigned due to personal reasons, and the board of directors had approved it. The next day, Watanabe held a press conference. In the face of reporters' long guns and short guns, he did not admit those things that were exposed. He did it, but he was framed by others. At the press conference, he bowed and apologized for taking up media space and disturbing everyone's life. At noon that day, Watanabe and Yoshida Dong-ai sat together to eat. Watanabe couldn't eat, and looked at the singer who was playing the song next to him. "Watanabe-san, why bother? Come out, I'll tell the motorcycle board another day, how about letting you be in charge of the overseas branch," Yoshida Toiki suggested. "I can't take this breath." Watanabe shimming slapped the table, he had never seen any strong winds or waves, and capsized the boat in this small gutter like Lu Feng. "It's just a small company, isn't it the same as playing?" Yoshida East picked up the wine glass and said, "He doesn't want to develop communications and develop pagers in the mainland. If you know, the mainland's pagers are now the best sellers. But Motorola..." Whoosh, Watanabe Kai's eyes lit up. At his age and the accumulation of wealth over the years, as long as he doesn't have a lot of money, he basically doesn't care, but this is the tone. He picked up the wine glass in front of him, touched Yoshida East, and said, "Then I have to apply for a motorcycle job. My relationship with your president is still very good. Don't worry, you are in charge of the external marketing department, a small company in the area, and you still care about it." Yoshida Dong-ai laughed, touched the cup, and drank it. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 732. Senior executives like Watanabe never worry about their future. There are a lot of companies waiting for him, just like Zhu Lidong going out from GFN Electronics one day, A lot of bosses will invite him to dinner and offer high-paying diggers. People. The change of Roma Semiconductor has attracted the attention of many people, and there is a lot of discussion in the business community. Some people even ask in private if there is any internal problem. Like this kind of core supplier, if something goes wrong, the upstream industry is a fatal blow. Hirata Ichiro was sitting in the office, and the corner of his mouth almost cracked with laughter in the afternoon. It is really difficult for an executive like Watanabe to be fired. He needs a meeting of the board of directors to discuss it, but he did not expect him to leave. The battle between the two of them over the years has come to an end, and he felt beautiful in his heart when he sat there thinking about it. The next day, public opinion came and went quickly. Everyone resigned and held a press conference to apologize. What else? It passed naturally. Lu Feng felt that this matter should be officially speeded up, or else the Chinese New Year will really be approaching. I called Hirata Ichiro and talked about the matter. The other party promised to go to the chairman's office to talk about it now. 10 minutes later, Hirata Ichiro walked out of Sakata's office and called Lu Feng directly. In the past, the first sentence was, "Lu Feng-jun, I want to congratulate you, Ruxin Lab, you can restart the negotiation." Hearing the result, Lu Feng put on a smile and asked, "Is it appropriate to meet tomorrow?" "Of course, no problem. As long as you have everything ready, I hope this negotiation will go smoothly. The Lunar New Year is coming soon, and I hope you can go home to celebrate the New Year." Ichiro Hirata thought for Lu Feng very much. "Thank you, we will go with sincerity tomorrow, don't worry," Lu Feng said politely. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng instructed Lu Cheng, "Notify everyone to assemble in the conference room, hold a meeting, and consider all aspects, especially law and accounting." Jin Tingting sat there with a sullen face and sighed, and said, "Can I do it this time? After all this twists and turns, don't talk about it again in the end, I'm worried. No crows are allowed. Business negotiation itself is a matter of eliminating all difficulties. We have been very successful. Many international mergers and acquisitions, it is normal for the two sides to stop talking for more than 10 years. You think children are playing the house?" Lu Feng station. He got up and said, "Go back to the house and lie down when you are tired." Jin Tingting didn't dare. During this time, Lu Feng's tricks opened her eyes. There are many wonders in the world, and she can use any tricks. She didn't forget what she was doing. In case Lu Feng hooked up with that Hirata Ichiro, got a fake contract, and got the foreign exchange out to do other things quietly, it's not impossible. I have to follow you. If you want to avoid me, sign a fake contract, and get the foreign exchange out, my supervision will be remiss," Jin Tingting said very honestly. Lu Cheng was in a daze while listening, and said, "What you said? A little too blunt, right?" Lu Feng hurriedly pressed his hand towards Lu Chensu, motioned him not to speak, and said, "He is a supervisor, and honesty is also powerful, so you can follow tomorrow. There are more than 30 people in this group, and they have been eating and drinking here for a month, and the cost is also very huge. Now that the critical moment has come, these people have done their best." The meeting lasted more than 3 hours, and the meeting was dismissed after ensuring that there were no major problems in the various processes. At 9 o'clock in the morning the next day, Ichiro Hirata went downstairs with several executives. This time he brought Nice Willie with him. Lu Feng's car was parked at the door of the office building. The door opened and Lu Cheng and Jin Tingting left. After getting out of the car, Liukan walked to the door of the first car and opened the door. Ichiro Hirata had already walked to the front of the car. Lu Feng got out of the car, the two of them shook hands with smiles on their faces, and Nice Willie, who was standing behind, froze. It's not easy, but all persistence is meaningful. I believe that after many years, recalling this tortuous acquisition will be the starting point for a win-win situation for the two companies. Lu Feng held his hand and said politely, I believe that today's negotiations will be very pleasant, Hirata Ichiro said with a smile. Nice Willie kept staring at Lu Feng, which was a little different from the atmosphere at the scene. She quickly thought about it a lot recently. The company has not been peaceful. Watanabe was the biggest obstacle to this acquisition. That night, he asked himself the most about Watanabe's situation. Things are already very clear, don't even think about it. These people have already been introduced to you last time. You may not have met this one. My secretary, I didn't see him last time because of something Ichiro Hirata introduced, President Lu Feng, Nice Willie's secretary. Hello, please give me some advice, Nice Willie reacted, staring at Lu Feng's eyes and reaching out to shake it. She finally didn't say anything. The matter here is not something that her little secretary can spy on, in case it's not good if something happens. Lu Feng and Hirata Ichiro talked and chatted as if they had been friends for many years, laughing heartily from time to time, and a group of people walked upstairs. When we got to the conference room, some tea was served first, and everyone sat down, talking and laughing. It's very polite, Jin Tingting whispered to Lu Feng, it doesn't seem to be so difficult to talk. It's easy to talk today, why don't you book a ticket in advance? Good talk, Lu Feng glanced at her and said nothing. The meeting officially started. Hirata Ichiro cleared his throat and said solemnly, then let's officially start. I won't say anything more about the price we talked about last time, the value of Ruxin Laboratory. For you, I believe it is very valuable, otherwise you will not buy it, right? Don't talk about the value to us. We are the buyer. It's our business to buy it back and throw it in the trash. It's the value of this company to you. You output the price. Lu Feng opened a document in front of him with a serious face. He held the folder, handed it over and said, this is a case from 7 years ago. This laboratory has almost the same patent rights as you, and it only sold for $42 million at that time. No, the US dollar 7 years ago was different from what it is now, Hirata Ichiro retorted. We have a bottom line, and we have a price in mind. It doesn't mean that you sell as much as you want, right? Lu Feng slapped the table with his hand and said, you have to be reasonable, it is not worth the price if you are sitting on the ground. Is the starting price interesting? It's not that we start the price on the ground, but it's worth the price. It depends on you being a small business. We want to help you. The 60 million yuan can't be lower, and the board of directors will not agree to it. Hirata Ichiro especially firm road. Don't talk to me about the board of directors. Everything has a price. If you don't talk about it like this, we have all the information of Ruxin Laboratory, the price evaluation of international professional organizations, and the transaction prices of similar international mergers and acquisitions in the past, Lu Feng said, and placed the information in front of him on the opposite side. The two sides were talking non-stop, expressing their own opinions, Japanese over there, Chinese here, and two translators sitting on either side. 4 people spoke at one time, and it was like a vegetable market. Jin Tingting was dumbfounded. Is this an international acquisition negotiation? Are you sure this is not grocery shopping? It took more than an hour for the two parties to take out all the materials, and the notes were constantly handed over on the conference table. The price had already hit $59 million. If Lu Feng agreed to the price, Hirata Ichiro could go back and ask the chairman. A bit. I am looking at the friendship between the two of us, and under the framework of helping the development of the global electronic communication business, I can use this reason to convince my boss. Hirata Ichiro looked at Lu Feng and said, if this price is sold, I can go to the chairman's office now. You don't come here. The 4 stores' car sales routines are all used by me. Do you really think I haven't seen the world? 50 million is already taking care of you, don't think I don't know, your own internal evaluation data. The price submitted is US $45 million, who are you kidding? Lu Feng leaned back on the chair and said, you are not sincere. The negotiation reached a deadlock. It was already noon. The two sides sat there without saying a word. The atmosphere in the entire office was extremely depressed. The final psychological contest began. Whoever spoke first would lose. Such a scene is like a couple breaking up. Whoever admits the mistake first will be pinched to death by the other party. If you don't admit your mistake, you will break up, but you don't want to break up. What should you do? Time passed by minute by minute. Jin Tingting was overwhelmed by the atmosphere. She didn't dare to speak rashly. Lu Feng glanced at the time on his watch. At 12:30, he raised his head and stared at Hirata. Ichiro, speak first. Eat first, how about it? It is good. Eating is a very neutral word. Eating is an activity that can break the deadlock. It does not mean that one party bows to the other party, but it can also bring the relationship closer to each other. If you don't want to break up, just call the other party to eat. In a Japanese food store not far from the office building, Lu Feng sat in his seat and pondered. Lu Cheng sat next to him and said in a low voice, "Mr. Lu, if we keep talking like this, we may not be able to talk about it on the 15th day of the first lunar month. The other party is obviously determined. We, especially in the morning, took out the information about our eagerness to enter the communication industry. They checked a lot of things. This matter can't be delayed." Lu Feng sighed, looking a little helpless, and said, "I need a hammer to set the tone in the afternoon, and try to lean on 50 million. I feel so tired. Why don't you talk to him in private?" Lu Cheng suggested. "Impossible, if you didn't see his face changed in the morning, then the goddamn little devil doesn't have a good thing," Lu Feng scolded. Jin Tingting heard this. He didn't take advantage of it and scolded the street, which seemed inappropriate, and persuaded, "You don't have to scold others. If it doesn't meet your expectations, just scold people." "Yeah, if it doesn't meet my expectations, I'll scold people. That's how subjective I am." Lu Feng was obviously a little angry during this period of tossing. "What you said, it seems that your character is not very good," Jin Tingting said helplessly. "Ha," Lu Feng smiled disdainfully and said, "the premise of bad character is to have character." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 733. Jin Tingting's remarks facing Lu Feng are true and speechless. Since she started to contact Lu Feng at work, she found that this person is completely in two states in life and work. This meal was dealt with by everyone. Lu Feng focused on chatting with accountants and lawyers, especially in the area of intellectual property rights. If all the formalities were completed before going to the production of pagers, the daylily would not only be cold, but also it's probably frozen. So what Lu Feng wants is to first sign an agreement to obtain the patent authorization in advance, and the other procedures will go slowly. Hirata Ichiro reported the morning's situation to Sakata at lunch. What he meant was that the price was set at $58 million, which was a reasonable price. Sakata nodded and agreed. The return of such a fund would be helpful to the development of the group. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the two sides entered the conference room again. After sitting down, Hirata Ichiro took the lead in giving concessions and said to Lu Feng, "Lu Feng sang, the price of $59 million is already very, very low. The price is too high, but I see that you are a little unhappy in the morning." During lunch, I argued with the chairman and held a temporary board conference call, and finally decided to let another $1 million to show our sincerity. Sincerity? $1 million for such a big deal? When Lu Feng heard this, his face was not good, and he said to Hirata Ichiro, "I wanted to talk to you in the morning. I see that you are a good person. To give you face, you just let this. It seems like a loss to me. It's like how much money you paid. Don't come to these routines. Let me give you a figure. The price is $50 million. We estimate it is $45 million, and the extra $5 million is our sincerity." After Lu Feng said this, Hirata Ichiro was a little unhappy. It was clearly a seller's market now, so he said it as if he begged him to buy it. If that's the case, then we can't talk anymore. Of course, your company still has a way to go. You can buy licenses. The price is easy to say. Hirata Ichiro gave his own advice. Anyway, these patents are in their place. It's all rubbish, and it's a little bit of money to exchange for a little bit of money. If we buy licenses, then we will develop research and development based on these patents. Are the latter patents ours? Lu Feng looked at him with a smile. You only have the right to use, and you don't have the right to carry out secondary development on this basis. Of course, we also have the right to suspend your right of use under certain conditions. Hirata Ichiro closed the folder in front of him and leaned on the chair. If Lu Fengzang wants to do research and development on this basis, he should buy it. Of course I want to buy it, but the price is too high. Since it's all discussed, I also open it up and say, I have always been a man of honor and a soldier. What kind of junk is Ruxin Laboratory? You know better than me. Buy what does it buy? It just wants to have a basic foundation, and further develop it on this foundation. The progress of our research and development cannot be delayed, whether you sell it or not, understand? Lu Feng said directly to him. The legal advisor on Hirata Ichiro's face became gloomy when he heard this. He said, Mr. Lu, I believe that if your company focuses on the global market, it will abide by the International Patent Rights Treaty. If you don't, we will take corresponding measures. Don't mention those measures to me. Who are you to scare me? We have to live first. I'll put my words here. If you want to sue, you can sue. If you dare to sue, I will pay for it. Lu Feng tapped on the table with his hand and said. Who is afraid of who in a lawsuit? Fight it. You win 3 or 5 years later, I will earn 100 million yuan, and I will pay you 100 million yuan, so I'm worth it? The people on the other side know that this kind of operation has little binding force on the small company, but to say it directly, it is the first time they have met. The person from the law firm on Lu Feng's side wrote a note to Lu Feng. These words cannot be said here. The note was handed to Lu Feng, and Lu Feng glanced at it and threw it aside and said, Don't hand me these notes, I know what I'm talking about. I'll put it here today, you sell it. Still not selling. Anyway, for this amount of money, either it will be given to you through the court in a few years, or it will be sold now. Ichiro Hirata never expected Lu Feng to come here. He has never seen such a shameless person, but the fact is that in front of him, what Lu Feng said was very executable. Lu Feng-jun, we are now 2 companies discussing business cooperation, adhering to an honest and friendly attitude, under the framework of the law. Stop, just what you said. If you continue to talk about it, it may not come to fruition next year. What kind of bullshit is honest and friendly? I will wait for you to say a word now. $50 million, do you want it? Lu Feng gave it. The ultimate killer. The people on the opposite side have already fried the pot. This is clearly a hooligan. If you can talk about it, you can talk about it. If you can't talk about it, you will turn around and steal it. Ichiro Hirata's face became extremely ugly, and he said solemnly, Mr. Lu, I have been engaged in negotiations for many years, and have participated in all kinds of international negotiations, even in developed countries in Europe and the United States. I have never seen you do such a thing. Don't compare me to developed countries. Those people are already full, and we are still hungry. Tomorrow we will become a large global enterprise. I can talk to you slowly. Some of them are means. Lu Feng leaned on the chair and said. Things have come to this point, you can decide. Hirata Ichiro felt that he needed to talk to the chairman and said, Stop it. After finishing speaking, a group of people stood up and walked out. Along the way, the lawyer counselor whispered to him that the method Lu Feng said was very enforceable, because GFN Electronics did not spread its own business internationally. Business, and the most binding is the mainland area. going to the mainland to fight a lawsuit with others. It's not that he has nothing to do with himself. If GFN Electronics becomes a company with a wide market in various countries around the world, Lu Feng would never dare to say such a thing. Once the lawsuit is sentenced, it will be executed immediately, and there are local authorities. Executable property. Not because of how well behaved those international companies are and how strict global laws are enforced, but because of the money they make in major markets around the world. In the chairman's office, Sakata slapped the table angrily when he heard this. If Watanabe was here now, he would definitely take the opportunity to scold Hirata Ichiro as an idiot. The initiative was originally in their hands, but now they let people lead by the nose. Walk. Angry returns to anger, reality returns to reality. If people really do this, they can't do anything about it. Instead, they will consume the time and energy of their legal department, and the money they get in the end is probably similar to what they are now. The price can't be too low, you can lower it appropriately, you can do it yourself. Sakata didn't want to care anymore, because of this shitty thing. Watanabe left, and now it's happening again, and his heart is broken. 10 minutes later, Hirata Ichiro and the others came back. After sitting down again, Lu Feng asked, "How is it? In order to help the communication industry in the mainland, we also consider that you are a small company and may not have sufficient funds. We understand that, so after the meeting and discussion of the board of directors, we can offer a discount." Hirata Ichiro picked it up. In a tone, he said to Lu Feng, 5 and 6 million. Don't be high profile, talk about it, don't talk about pulling down, the price is still high, our idea is 50 million, what do you say about help, what kind of love? There is a lot of bullshit, and we are not the kind of people who want money. The company is also generous, mainly because I see that your current economy is not particularly good, and the company is difficult to operate. From the perspective of humanitarianism, I will give you $3 million, 5,305, Lu Feng said to Hirata Ichiro, just at this price, don't go back and forth to ask, how about a final decision? The price of 53 million is not too outrageous, Hirata Ichiro whispered with the people around him, and said, then let's go at this price. The price is set in advance. How long will the acquisition process take? Lu Feng looked at the lawyers and accountants and asked, how long does a normal procedure take? Generally speaking, it takes 3 to 5 months, depending on the approval, as well as asset estimation, legal issues, etc. At the longest, 7 or 8 months is absolutely fine. That's it, Lu Feng said to Hirata Ichiro, because we need these technical materials, we will go ahead with the merger and acquisition process first, and give us the relevant materials first. Hirata Ichiro couldn't listen anymore. Lu Feng's words were very simple, that is, to pick up the goods first and then give the money, just like buying a pack of steamed buns, take the steamed buns home to eat first, and then give the money the next day. He absolutely does not allow this. What if this process is not completed for 10 years due to some accidents? Lu Feng can intervene in the domestic approval process. If one chapter is not covered, it will not be completed. No, Lu Feng Jun, it's still according to the contract. I believe that the benefits of these technical patents to your company are not only focused on the past few months. Hirata Ichiro said, if you insist on doing this, then we won't sell it. Hirata Ichiro can't sell it. If he doesn't sell it, GFN Electronics is pirated and can still sue. If the contract is signed and the money is not paid, they can't even sue. Lu Feng also knew that they were worried and gave a solution. You don't have to worry, I am a serious businessman, adhering to the spirit of integrity, friendship, and mutual assistance, and creating wealth for the world. Lu Feng looked at him with justice and said, in order to ensure this acquisition, we can how about putting the funds into an account, freezing them, and when the contract is over, the frozen funds are unfrozen and automatically credited to your company's account. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 734. Regarding this solution, Lu Feng proposed a more detailed and feasible solution. He talked about it at 6 o'clock in the evening, and finally everything was negotiated. The two parties signed a pre-acquisition plan. At the same time, Lu Feng needed to deposit the full amount, US $53 million, into the designated account and then freeze it. The Rome Group needed to align the 27 core intellectual property rights of Ruxin Lab in advance. GFN Electronics is open, and GFN Electronics has the right to inquire about core technologies. To put it simply, he was afraid of taking the information back, and the people over there would not understand it, so he had to keep in touch at any time. Although it was written in the contract, Lu Feng felt that he would not know if they would answer the phone or not after the matter was over. After having a meal together in the evening, after returning to the hotel, Jin Tingting also checked the contract and looked at Lu Feng suspiciously. "Are you going to follow the contract?" "Why don't I follow the contract?" Lu Feng looked at her and said, "Don't look at me with that suspicious look, okay? I don't have this money. When the time comes, the contract will be handed over to the relevant departments for review, you can rest assured." Lu Feng patted her shoulder and said, "As a supervisor, can brother still cheat on your own people?" "Okay, I'll go back tomorrow." If it was before, she would definitely believe in Lu Feng unconditionally, but now she always feels that this person is secretly doing things behind her back, muttering a few words without saying anything else. The contract was successfully signed, and the matter finally came to an end. When he returned to the hotel in the evening, Lu Feng held a celebration party. It was now January 3rd, and there were only 7 days left before the Chinese New Year. In the restaurant, Lu Feng held up the red wine glass and said to everyone, "Thank you for your hard work. The smooth progress of the later merger will inevitably make everyone busy. Anyway, we have successfully brought Ruxin Laboratory into our arms, and we have set a tomorrow for everyone. The Chinese New Year will be a week away. I wish everyone a prosperous year of the dog in advance." "Thank you, Mr. Lu." Everyone touched the cups and drank them all. Liukan seemed more excited. After this acquisition, the R/U0026D company's domestic technology accumulation will leap to a new level, and even the existence of a leader in the field of communication is not a good idea. Pass. He held a glass of wine and talked to Lu Feng a lot. After listening to Lu Feng, he also felt emotional. It is sad to become a leading company after eating some leftovers that others don't want. In addition to communications this year, another chip company will be established. It is estimated that a factory will have to be opened. This factory should not be placed under the big group. I mean, the R/U0026D company will be directly responsible, Lu Feng instructed Lu Cheng. If it is placed under the R/U0026D company, I'm afraid that President Wei and the others will gossip. Lu Chengwei, after all, the production plants are placed under the big group, which is a bit unethical. You don't need to think so much, I'll tell her. Lu Feng pondered for a while and said, the pager is still in a hurry, and the Chinese New Year is coming soon. After the relevant information arrives, I hope everyone can work harder. The market is really tight. After the design drawing was released, the factory still has to make molds and debug the production line, which is all time. Lu Cheng nodded frequently. He understood what Lu Feng meant, and said, we can catch up with the progress during the Chinese New Year, and set up an assault team to try to get the product out in March. There's no need to squeeze people. On New Year's Eve, we give people a holiday, and the members of the team are members. The outside world has always criticized us for this. This assault team, let those who hold shares join first. Lu Fengdu, and holding the wine glass, he muttered to Lu Cheng, I'll send a red envelope to you at that time. You can order food and drink. There's not much money in this area. I understand. Lu Cheng hesitated and said, many engineers who were hired from foreign companies have made a fuss about our overtime work, saying that we don't pay overtime, this matter. Mr. Liu, we are an engineer-based company, but we can't get used to it. Now the R/U0026D company has a very large team, and the internal competition is fierce. You should not only make efforts in R/U0026D, but also more importantly. Its management. Lu Feng stared at him and sighed, the salary plus equity dividends are already very high, and there is no second one in the whole country. Where can there be two sweet sugar canes? I'm going back to strengthen the management in this area. I have recently promoted a few vice presidents who are very good in administrative management. Lu Cheng agreed with a serious look. To strengthen the corporate culture, we must not be kidnapped by these people. He earns 1 million and still wants 2 million. For some core R/U0026D personnel, with high dividends, there must be management methods. Enough is enough. If you are not happy tomorrow, you will quit the job. How much will the company lose? I wanted to talk about this last year. Seeing that you did a good job last year, whether it's VCD, TV, home appliances, you have done a good job. I didn't say it. This is indeed a problem. When you focus on talent training, you must design a path to ascend the ladder. Don't invest a lot of money to train a young engineer, turn around and be poached by other companies, sign an agreement when it should be signed, and a rigid management system. No less, there should be humanistic care. Lu Feng thought about it for a while and said, for some executives who already have money in their hands, there must be a way. He has money, and his motivation is not enough. This is indeed a problem. After a group of executives paid dividends, they did not treat their work as actively as before. Lu Cheng agreed very much. This problem is also easy to solve. We must learn to keep them hungry. When the company goes out to study, we can take them to some high-end places, such as going to New York to study, renting a villa for them to rest, or going to high-end hotels. I can't say that it will be reimbursed in full, but half of it can be reimbursed. To let their money go somewhere, and let them see more luxurious things, they can be encouraged to take out loans to buy houses in New York or some places with high housing prices around the world, emptying their cash and letting them buy luxury car. I don't have money in my hand, and when I'm under pressure, I'm naturally going to work hard, and I don't need you to tell me, they will work overtime themselves. Lu Feng patted Lu Cheng's shoulder and said, understand. Lu Cheng raised his head to look at Lu Feng with a bit of shock in his eyes, but nodded and said, I understand. I understand. I think you should also buy a house in New York. When the child is older, the educational conditions there are good, especially the house in Manhattan. It's really good. No matter how hard it is, you can't suffer the child, Lu Feng suggested to him. I'll have a look when I have time, Lu Cheng said perfunctorily. Don't think I'm cheating on you. What I just said is a management method, and it's also true. You should go out and have a look. If you have time, I will take you out to meet the world, so let's do it first. Lu Feng finished. He turned his head and walked towards the others. At 10 o'clock in the evening, when the banquet was over, Lu Feng went back to his room. Lu Cheng couldn't sleep. He felt that Lu Feng had a lot of thoughts. The money in his hand, at the current price, was enough for him to live in Shenzhen until he was 60 or 70 years old. As for how good life can be in developed countries, it's not that he hasn't been there before. With a sigh, Lu Cheng felt that he was still suitable for research and development. The next day, everyone boarded the plane. Lu Feng and the others left today, while the people from the accounting firm, law firm, and United Capital Financial Services had to stay for a few days to deal with what happened next. Sitting on the plane, Lu Feng was a little helpless looking at the date. The matter that was originally planned to be solved in a week has been dealt with for a whole month. As the plane took off, Lu Feng didn't want to think about it anymore, and leaned on the seat and closed his eyes. After getting off the plane at noon, Jin Tingting wanted to go back to the unit. The car the company picked up was a commercial vehicle, so she had to go back to the group headquarters first. In the restaurant, Lu Feng was eating, looked at Jin Tingting and asked, "Are you guys on vacation soon? It should be just these few days. Our department is relatively busy and can leave early. I heard that someone took a leave of absence and went back a few days ago," Jin Tingting said without raising her head while eating. "I have prepared some souvenirs, and I will take them back during the Chinese New Year as a gift of mine," Lu Feng said to her. "Tomorrow I will send someone to deliver it to you." "I don't want it. I have to carry it when I get home. Besides, my dad has to scold me when he sees it." Jin Tingting shook her head again and again. "It's me who didn't think about it carefully. I have a logistics company under my banner, and I will let them deliver it when the time comes. How can my uncle scold you? It's all about New Year's cakes and so on." "My little thought, who doesn't walk around during the New Year," Lu Feng said to her. "Don't worry, I know what to do. If it's a cake, I can just buy it in the capital." Jin Tingting raised her head and said, "Send it to me all the way. Look at what you said, you should pay attention to what you say in the future. If you say this to outsiders, they will think that you are asking for bribes, understand? Can you buy the same as mine? Mind, do you understand?" Lu Feng pointed at her with chopsticks and said, "You're young, you have to learn to speak. You can't point your head at people with chopsticks." Jin Tingting looked at him and said with a bit of anger, "You're smart, you're full of bad water, or you'll make money. I can't say enough about you, but I can see that as far as your character is concerned, if you don't have a big change, you won't have a long way to go." Lu Feng commented on her. If Zhang Fengxia and Jin Tingting were put together, Jin Tingting is far inferior to her. As for gift giving, it's really a way of doing things. If you don't communicate with each other during the New Year's and holidays, you will look stupid and the things you give are inappropriate, or you will look stupid, too expensive, and too cheap. What Lu Feng is going to send are also some relatively expensive cakes, tea, and electronic products. They all seem to be useful. They don't accept them. Then you have no eyeballs. Some people even like to reject others. You send them away, and he yells at them to show their high style. He will never accept them, but he likes the style. There are all kinds of strange things in the world, so don't be surprised. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 735. Just as Lu Feng was about to persuade him a few more words, the person in charge of the investment department came over and seemed to have something to say. "What's wrong?" Lu Feng raised his head and asked him. "Mr. Lu, I have something to tell you, is it convenient or not?" He glanced at Jin Tingting as he spoke. Lu Feng put down his chopsticks, stood up and walked aside, asking, "What's wrong? Didn't you tell me to invest in Huaxia Cosmetics last time? It's already been negotiated. After such a long time of contact, we gave a plan of 8 million, accounting for 80% of the shares, and President Zhang also accepted it. Next year will be transformed into the direction of daily chemicals," the person in charge of the investment department said to Lu Feng. 80% of the shares. It can be seen that he did not hold back at all. "Okay, I see," Lu Feng nodded and let him do his own thing. Back at the dining table, Lu Feng finished his meal, suddenly wanted to take a look at Duo Duo. He hadn't seen the little guy for a while. Jin Tingting reported back to the unit, and Lu Cheng was busy going back to the meeting, preparing to hand over relevant materials. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng drove to the school gate and found that the school had already closed the winter vacation and was empty, but he didn't know where the two of them lived now. The doorman lives next door to the school. He also works part-time as a street sweeper and is in charge of the school gate. He is also a member of the subordinate committee of the street. He has a lot of identities. When he saw the car, he immediately thought of Lu Feng. He was the first to give cigarettes. Inside the car, Lu Feng was smoking a stuffy cigarette. The uncle came over and knocked on the window. Lu Feng lowered the window and saw the uncle froze for a moment. "I live here, Dad." "Duo, what are you doing here?" the uncle asked, leaning on the car door with both hands. "I came to look for the child, and only when I came did I found out that they were on winter vacation." Lu Feng took out 2 packs of cigarettes from the armrest, handed them to the uncle, and said, "To tell you the truth, my family is a bit special, and I don't know about them. Where do the girls live now, do you know? You big bosses, it's all like this. I think you are a good person. If you were an ordinary person, I really wouldn't tell him this," the uncle said, putting the cigarette in his pocket and saying, "I remember a lot of class teachers sent it to him. A few times, they must have lived on the side of the railway family. After leaving this intersection, go south, and there is a large supply and marketing cooperative in that area, and you can see it when you go inside." "Thank you, uncle," Lu Feng said politely, and started the car and sped away. The community is an employee-allocated room. It is an old building. The community is very large, with a rough estimate of several thousand people. Lu Feng parked his car at the gate of the community and walked aimlessly inside. After walking around for an hour, I saw countless groups of children chasing after me, but I didn't see many of them. I secretly wondered if Zhang Xiaoyan took it to the factory. After all, she is busy now and has no time. Take care of. Dad, a lot of voices came from behind. Lu Feng turned his head and saw 7 or 8 little girls about her age gathered together. All of them were blushing, their bodies were steaming, and they were wearing a pair of autumn clothes. When they saw Lu Feng, they ran towards him. "Come over." "Oh, I've grown taller again." Lu Feng squatted down, picked her up, stretched out his hand to wipe the sweat off her face, and said, "Why are you sweating in this cold weather? Just wear one. Single Kaiyi. I left my sweater there." Duo pointed to a sweater hanging on a small tree not far away. "What should I do if I catch a cold?" Lu Feng looked at her with a smile on his face and asked, "Do you miss me?" "Think." Duo kissed Lu Feng on the cheek and said, "Dad is the most handsome." "Dad, I want to eat KFC." "Eat, eat, eat," Lu Feng quickly agreed. Lu Feng took these children away together and invited them to eat KFC. In fact, this year, Lu Feng still wanted to spend time with Zhang Xiaoyan, and he was afraid that Zhang Xiaoyan's heart had not been resolved. Mom is very busy every day. She wakes up very early in the morning, finishes cooking for me, takes me to school, and then she goes to work. Duo squeezed with 2 children in the co-pilot, and said, "No, I eat delicious food without meat, but she said it will be ready soon, and Aunt Zhang bought me clothes." Duo's words were a bit messy. When she remembered what to say, she was in the factory every day, and she had to find a way to balance Duo's education. As for Lu Feng, she kept telling Duo that her father was just busy and didn't say much about the rest. After listening to this, Lu Feng could only sigh. She was born to suffer. If he stood up and told her to help her, let alone Zhang Xiaoyan would not agree, Zhang Fengxia would not agree either. When he arrived at KFC, Lu Feng ordered all the children could order and ate them openly. "Dad, I got the certificate, and I got the 2nd place in the class in the midterm exam." Duo asked Lu Feng for credit. "How smart are you? Study hard, and if you do it well, Dad will be rewarded." Lu Feng looked at her and asked, "Do you play with them every day?" "I study hard every day. My mother said that I have no money at home. Only by studying hard can I have a good future. I have finished my winter vacation homework." Duo muttered how tired his mother was every day. She has seen prosperity before, and she can naturally feel the difference when she falls from a high place. Lu Feng feels that the turbulent energy on Duo seems to have disappeared a lot. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. A group of children have eaten and spent more than 1,000 yuan. You must know that the price of KFC today is not much different from that of a few decades later. For ordinary families, this is a high consumption, foreign thing. Duo ate half of the hamburger and wrapped it in wrapping paper. Are you full? Lu Feng asked. I want to feed my mother. Duo raised his head and looked at Lu Feng with big black eyes. Pack up for your mother and eat it, Lu Feng sighed after finishing speaking. He could imagine what Zhang Xiaoyan's life had become. In the face of adversity, she is a woman who can dig herself to the extreme. Duo began to feel sorry for her. After eating, Lu Feng packed a few servings and bought some New Year clothes with Duo, and followed her home. On the 5th floor, climbing the stairs is very tiring. The corridor exudes an indescribably old smell. There are assorted bicycles, flower pots, and daily necessities everywhere. When the door is opened, the one-bedroom and one-hall house looks extraordinarily simple, with a TV set. Refrigerator, these are all unplugged. There was half a bowl of porridge on the dining table, covered with a pot lid, next to a plate of pickles, and the coffee table was full of various product drawings. There are only 2 canopy beds left. Lu Feng sighed and sat on the sofa, suddenly panicked under his butt, reached out and found something that looked like a pocket watch. Looking through this thing, there are 2 photos inside, one is Lu Feng and the other is Zhang Xiaoyan. When they are closed, it is like a kiss. This was taken in 1991 when I first arrived in Shenzhen. It is a rare thing. At that time, Zhang Xiaoyan was still "Don't shoot, this thing is too much." Lu Feng played with it for a while, put it aside, and wandered around the house, feeling that all these years of hard work had been in vain for her. The Duo desk is the most luxurious place in the house, with lamps, various books, and the tables and chairs look very good. The quartz clock on the wall was ticking. It was already past 6 in the evening. Lu Feng wanted to wait for her to come back, but he was afraid that no one wanted to go back during those torturous years. At 6:30, Lu Feng sighed, but decided to leave. Before leaving, he wrote a note. These things were given to Duo, and the message said, "Love your so-and-so." Just after going downstairs, Lu Feng saw Zhang Xiaoyan came back riding a Jialing motorcycle and hid under a tree to watch. Wearing a yellowish Nazai coat, her expression is indifferent, and she doesn't like to laugh so much. She parked the motorcycle downstairs, took out a bag from the front frame, and went upstairs with cabbage, pork, etc. in it, and she walked down angrily with the bag of KFC in her hand after waiting for a long time. Standing downstairs, he looked around like an angry eagle, but couldn't find the culprit, and finally threw the things into the trash can. Yo, isn't this the big boss? It's a pity that the food was lost. A woman in her 40s stood downstairs and nibbled melon seeds. Zhang Xiaoyan looked around and raised her voice, and said, "I don't know who you are, don't hit me, start with the child, is it disgusting? You are a widow, is there anyone chasing you? You're a widow." Zhang Xiaoyan stared at the other party and shouted, "Shut your mouth if you can't speak. It's really amazing to open a factory, I can't afford it." Zhang Xiaoyan didn't say anything to her, looked around behind her, and went upstairs. Life will change a person. As for which side to show, no one knows. Of course Lu Feng wanted to help her, but he didn't know if he really helped her and whether he would go in another direction. After leaving the community, Lu Feng drove straight to the headquarters. First, he ordered people to prepare some gifts, hand them over to the logistics company, and then deliver them to Jin Tingting's home. During dinner in the evening, Lu Feng learned that the sales of Wipita TVs had been suppressed. At present, the daily sales volume was around 5,000 units. The market had already formed a close contest. For home appliances, he really doesn't have much thought about it. Now the main thing is communication. In more than a month, Bert has made great efforts, and the monthly sales have exceeded 50,000. As far as the current situation is concerned, Bird has a very strong momentum. Their production line is expanding, and the problem of insufficient production capacity will be solved after the year. I heard that Hong Kong businessmen have solved most of the problems for them, Vice President of Marketing Department Zhao Lufeng said, and the goal set this year is 1 million units. 1 million units. Lufeng took a puff of cigarette. If he remembered correctly, the overall market for pagers in 1994 was only 4 or 5 million units, most of which were occupied by manufacturers like Motorola and Panasonic. Broken 50,000. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 736. In the past month, Bird has made a lot of actions, because it is incomparable with GFN Electronics or Motorola in terms of sales channels. So they simply engage in a wholesale model. Whoever pulls the goods will sell them as long as they pay. There is no after-sales service. What they do is a one-shot deal. Can be used to expand production. When Lufeng heard the news, he couldn't eat it. If he remembered correctly, Bird was established in 1992, and the first batch of pagers was produced in 1993. Due to poor quality, a large number of returned products were returned. Funding and technical support only gained a firm foothold in 1994. It did not occupy a 20% market share until 1996, and it surpassed it in the last few years of the 1990s, and then transformed into mobile phones. It sells 50,000 units a month, and the annual sales are rushing to 1 million units. This waveguide is a bit strong. Back in the office, lying on the bed and pondering until late at night, Lufeng seemed to have figured out the key. In the world of the previous life, Bird's opponent was only Motorola, and the competition was not so fierce. However, in this life, there is GFN Electronics. For them, GFN Electronics, as a local enterprise, puts more pressure on them than foreign capital. When it is strong, it is stronger, and many things have quietly changed. In fact, Lufeng has changed the fate of too many people. Along the way, from De Tou, Gao Jiwei, Zhu Lidong, Zhang Fengxia, Zhang Xiaoyan, etc., everyone who has come into contact with him seems to have deviated from the original trajectory of life. Is this world still the same world? Lufeng couldn't think clearly. Maybe when he appeared, everything was the starting point of change. He fell asleep in a drowsy sleep, and the next day was the 24th day of the 12th lunar month. The factory was on holiday, the company began to clean up, and everyone was slack at work. Lufeng even saw a vice president tidy up the things on his desk, quite like a primary school student waiting for school. Tomorrow will be a holiday, and Lufeng also understands these people. After all, they have been busy in this year, and they have packaged more than 500 red envelopes, and Lufeng will send them when he sees them. Mr. Lu, Happy New Year. Hello, Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu has a good New Year. On the 5th floor, Lufeng spent the whole morning, and the meals in the cafeteria at noon were extraordinarily rich. At the dinner table, Wei Yandan, Zhu Lidong, and Liukan were all executives. They did not have a holiday for the time being. Only the New Year's 30 holiday. The company also a small group will be left on duty to maintain the basic operation of the headquarters. Then, what's going on with Bird? It sold so fiercely, Lufeng asked towards a table of people. I'm also in a hurry. I heard that I was planning to build a sales point slowly, but now I'm in a hurry, so I'm going to wholesale. Zhu Lidong looked at the vice president beside him and said, Mr. Lu is staring at this. Mr. Lu was about to report to Lufeng, and Lufeng said directly, let's not talk about it for now. Let's celebrate the new year. Are the New Year's goods ready at home? Are you in Shenzhen or go back to your hometown? I went back to my hometown. I haven't gone back for a few years. My child wants to go back. There are many relatives in my hometown, so it's lively. I'm also going back, mainly because I don't need to cook, my family is ready. Ha 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 ha, but when you go back, you have to give out red envelopes. Everyone was talking, Lu Feng listened to their plan, and felt a little lonely. He picked up the glass in front of him and took a sip. Wei Yandan hadn't gone home for the new year for 2 years. Take less vacation. Mr. Wei, you haven't been home for a long time, haven't you? Lu Feng asked her. I was on a business trip in the summer, and I passed by and went back, Wei Yandan said while eating. I'll give you a holiday this year, go back early, the subordinate factories are all ready for production, and the shipments are stable, and the rest is fine. Lu Feng smiled at her and said, you go home for a new year. Wei Yandan looked happy after hearing this, and said, thank you, Mr. Lu. The pace of life is not so fast now, and business is not so race against time. For some small businesses, it is not a problem to prepare goods in the warehouse for the new year and start work after the first month. In the afternoon, everyone got off work early. The company seemed to be a bit empty. From time to time, there were several sounds of gun battles in the distance. It seemed a little New Year. There is no New Year in the business district. Lu Chen knocked on the door of Lu Feng's office, and Lu Feng asked him, what's the matter? Mr. Lu, when are you going home? I won't go back this year. I'm here alone. When President Wei goes home, I'll take a walk in the company. Lu Feng asked him, are you off work? How's the information on the Roma group? The contract is in the process of going through the process. It is expected that the relevant materials will come the day after tomorrow. I have set up an assault team. Now that the relevant materials and documents have not come, I will give them a few days off. Lu Chen knew that Lu Feng did not. A place to go, he suggested, would you like to eat at my house? I won't go, your family is lively, and I'm also busy, giving gifts to the leader. Lu Feng waved at him and said, go home early. Lu Cheng said a few more polite words, but Lu Feng still refused. The sky outside had already darkened. In the distance, fireworks could be seen blooming in the air, and then they disappeared in an instant. Lu Feng lit a cigarette and felt lonely in the air. At the time of reunion and the lights of thousands of families, he felt that he was abandoned by the whole world. This kind of loneliness did not exist now, but when he opened his eyes and saw this era, the loneliness in his heart always existed. A person who has been thrown away in the past has some words that no one can say. He called Deputy Mayor Lu and gave him some festive cakes or something. The other party refused, and he wanted to call Huang Yue, but he couldn't find him for the new year. This idea was eventually rejected by Lu Feng. The greetings at work are all polite words. What Lu Feng needs at this time is not these. He needs a home, a place where he can rest his heart. On the third day, Lu Feng finally agreed to go back to have a meal with Liuken. Liuken's house is quite big, and he built a small 3-story Western-style house. Southerners generally have this preference, and they build a small Western-style house to live in. Lu Cheng's daughter-in-law is a high school teacher with fair skin and a pair of glasses. When she saw Lu Feng carrying something into the door, she hurriedly took it and said, come in, come here, buy something, you are so big. Boss, it's too late for us to welcome you, Lao Lu often talks about you, I didn't expect you to be so young. Lu Feng didn't say a word, she had already made a long list, and it was obvious that she was a talkative person. It's not a good time to come empty-handed. Lu Feng was polite, and was a little shy when he saw a 7 or 8-year-old child walking out. Call someone. Hello, uncle. Hello, I'll give you some lucky money. Lu Feng took out a big red envelope from his pocket as he spoke, and the couple refused to accept him. The child took the red envelope with a smile on his face and squeezed it with his hand. Obviously, he was quite satisfied with the money in it. Little did he know that Lu Feng stuffed a stack of $10 into it. $100. But there are many. How about the exam? Lu Feng sat down and asked him. This child doesn't study hard all day long. Lu Cheng sighed and looked helpless. The joy on the little guy's face disappeared a lot, and he smiled awkwardly at Lu Feng. It's okay. Have you finished your winter vacation homework? Lu Feng asked again. He couldn't laugh at all, was glared by Lu Cheng, and obediently went back to the house to do his homework. The 27th day of the 12th lunar month, for now, is already the beginning of the new year. During dinner, the gunfire outside was crackling. This house was busy, and the other house was bustling, and there was a feeling of competition. Lu Feng sat with Lu Cheng drinking wine. I feel annoyed at the festival. Lu Feng leaned on the chair and smoked a cigarette, feeling a little melancholy. Mr. Lu, you are young and rich. If you can't remarry, you can find another one. It's easy to find another one, Lu Cheng persuaded. Let's put aside the status of this subordinate now. I will take one as a big brother. I want to persuade you. You say that this is a festival, it is not a big deal. No, women are easy to find. I'm not bragging about you. Lu Feng drank slightly and put a hand on Lu Cheng's shoulder and said, hiccup. As long as I think a beautiful woman will marry me tomorrow, but I don't want a woman, I want a home. I understand. I'm older than you, and I understand how you feel. Lu Cheng blushed, his voice began to fluctuate, and said to Lu Feng, you can't be so lonely, I thought about it a few days ago. Tell you, why don't you go home? I'm having trouble with my family because of the divorce. No, this thing, drink and drink, Lu Feng sighed, his face was full of vicissitudes that others couldn't understand. He picked up the glass and said, it's all in the wine. The two drank it all in one go. Lu Feng picked up the chopsticks and picked up the cucumbers. Lu Cheng obviously drank more than he did. He wanted to take a bite with the chopsticks, but the chopsticks always stuck out of the plate and finally gave up. With my current financial resources, what do I want? I can find a group of beauties. Even if I go to karaoke to spend my life and spend 2 million a night, I can afford it. Lu Feng said to him, as for women, it's not uncommon. I can do anything. But what's the point of that? I understand. Lu Cheng nodded again and again, lit a cigarette, resting his chin with one hand, looking sluggish. Knowing that he didn't understand, Lu Feng glanced at the time. It was already past 9 o'clock in the evening, and said to him, go to rest early, I'm going back too. There are rooms, you stay here, it's so late. Lu Cheng stood up and staggered to retain, drink a little longer. Don't drink, you go to bed earlier, tomorrow the data will come, you have to go to work. Lu Feng settled for a few words and walked towards the door. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 737. The sky is vast, cloudless, the air is dank and cold, and the stars are dotted above his head. Lu Feng raised his head and looked at the sky. Driving to the downstairs of Zhangxiaoyan, Lu Feng raised his head and looked at the 5th floor. The lights were on in the room, and the glass had been pasted with paper cuts. Through the glass, Lu Feng saw that Zhang Fengxia was here tonight. It seemed that they planned to spend this together. Years. Duoduo's excited shouts reached downstairs. Lu Feng wanted to go up, but he didn't know what kind of identity he should go up in. It was easy to meet each other, but some things could not be resolved, and there was only embarrassment after meeting. After standing downstairs and watching for more than half an hour, Lu Feng drove back to the villa, and after a simple wash, he lay on the bed and fell asleep. After 3 days, he just woke up and went to the R/U0026D company to take a look around. Everyone was busy with their respective responsibilities. Lu Feng really didn't understand anything about R/U0026D and couldn't get involved. I had lunch at noon, and my family called again. It was New Year's Day soon. I hoped that Lu Feng would rush back, but Lu Feng refused again. Although it is a bit lonely to celebrate the new year alone, it is more comfortable than going back to deal with those relatives. Not a lot. Being idle is also idle. Lu Feng briefly sorted out the personnel that the company lacks now. After the mass production of pagers after the spring, the marketing department will need a person in charge, Zhu Lidong will be in charge of home appliances, and communications will need to develop another marketing department. Moreover, the overseas sector also needs people now, especially to enter the global market, and it needs to lay a foundation this year. It is impossible to make any money in this life by relying on OEM exports alone. The Lunar New Year period was actually a good time to poach people. Lu Feng wondered whether Lenovo had a suitable candidate. He searched his mind for more powerful people in the future, and suddenly thought of a person. Yu Chengdong. The person in charge of Huawei's mobile phones in the future. This person understands both technology and the market. If he is trained well, he can be the head of the marketing department of a communication company. With a candidate in mind, Lu Feng sat there and thought for a while. He should have joined Huawei by now, so it doesn't seem appropriate to poach other people's corners. Lu Feng didn't care too much about what was suitable or not, everyone was a family. He picked up the phone on the table and called the person in charge of the purchasing department of the group. As the person in charge of supporting the industrial chain, he must know someone from Huawei. The person in charge of the purchasing department, who was at home for the Chinese New Year, was shocked when he received a call from Lu Feng, thinking that the New Year would not be complete, and hurriedly asked, "Mr. Lu, what's your order?" "Happy Chinese New Year, I have nothing to do. I want to ask you something." "Do you know someone from Huawei?" Lu Feng asked. "I know, the one in Shenzhen, right? The boss's surname, surname Ren." Yes, please help me find someone, Yu Chengdong, who graduated from Tsinghua University, give me his contact information." Lu Feng ordered. "Okay, I'll make a few calls and ask." After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng stood up and moved around for a while. He felt a little guilty about the person who poached Huawei. While feeling guilty, he ordered someone to prepare a gift box of pastries. After finding out the address, he went to visit directly. With his face secretly pondering his language skills, how can he keep him from going to work after the New Year? Half an hour later, the phone came back, and the other end said, "Mr. Lu, he doesn't have a phone at home, but I have to arrive at the address." "Then give me the address." After getting the address, Lu Feng carried 2 boxes of cakes and drove downstairs to his destination. The streets were already lively today. The car drove to a street and was blocked by the Yanko team. Lu Feng had to park the car on the shoulder of the road and wait. The Yanko team was twisting in red and hanging green, and the crowd of onlookers along the way was even bigger. 2 people carried a big drum and banged bang bang bang, and the scene was very lively. The scene was a bit crowded. Lu Feng got out of the car and stood by to watch. There was also an old man who followed the Yanko team all the way. He wore a black Nazai coat on his upper body and a scarf around his neck. He held a camera in his hand and kept taking pictures of the Yanko team. He stepped back and muttered, "Traditional culture. Traditional culture." Behind Lu Feng was a young man in his 20s. He was riding a Jialing motorcycle. He had been squeezed onto the shoulder of the road by the Yanko team. He supported the motorcycle with his 2 legs and moved forward slowly. "Let me go, please let me go." The young man pushed his head forward with his 2 legs on the ground. He saw that the legs around him were evading, the wheel of the car rolled forward, and suddenly a pair of legs did not move in front of him. He subconsciously twisted the accelerator, and the motorcycle suddenly came. With a burst of momentum, it slammed into the front. Let. When Lu Feng heard someone shouting behind him, he was startled when he turned around. A motorcycle was already on his butt, and it was too late to dodge. For fear that the wheel of the motorcycle would press on his legs, he subconsciously separated his legs, and the whole person was half-hearted. Sitting on the Jialing motorcycle was pushed forward. The out-of-control motorcycle quickly caused a commotion in the crowd, and quickly moved out of an open space, but the foreigner who took the picture had a camera in his hand and was still taking pictures with his back to Lu Feng. "Let! Let!" Lu Feng shouted. He wanted to jump down, but he was afraid of being run over by the motorcycle. He grabbed the motorcycle's basket with both hands, supported his upper body, and his feet were pushed by the motorcycle. Pedaling rapidly. The foreigner turned around and saw that Lu Feng was too late. The next second, he directly hit him, turning his horse on his back. Fortunately, the speed of the car was not fast, and he was not seriously injured. "I told you to let it go, why do you stand there still?" The young man scraped the skin on his arm, lifted the motorcycle, and said, "It's not my fault." I even shouted to get out of the way. The foreigner struggled to get up and picked up the camera first. The casing was broken. After pressing the button a few times, it didn't seem to work well. He said to Lu Feng in Chinese, "You too broke my camera." "It's none of my business," the young man said quickly when he saw that there was something going on at the stall. "I hurriedly turned the wrong accelerator because I bumped into someone. If he stepped aside, this would not have happened." "You hit someone, do you still have reason?" Lu Feng saw that the Yanko team had gone far, and said to the foreigner, "I was also hit by someone. I have something urgent, go ahead and talk to him about this thing. I'm leaving too, it has nothing to do with me." The young man got on the motorcycle and was about to leave. "Where can the foreigner let the two go?" Grabbing one in one hand and saying, "You two can't go, you have to pay for my camera. If you don't pay, no one can leave. That eldest brother, you have to pay for the person you bumped into," the young man said to Lu Feng. "Why should I pay?" Lu Feng was angry and said, "You hit me, I haven't asked you to pay, but you asked me to pay him first. What's the reason?" The three of them were wrangling each other, and no one could argue. The foreigner had to call the police. 2 policemen came and took them back to the police station for mediation. Because it was foreign related, they paid more attention to it. "What's your name?" the policeman asked the young man. "Du Guoying." "Where are you from?" "Henan drops." "What are you doing in Shenzhen?" "Look for a job." Sitting on the side, Lu Feng was stunned when he heard the name. He turned his head and stared at the person beside him. The more he looked, the more familiar he became. He asked tentatively, "Did you graduate from a normal university?" Du Guoying looked at Lu Feng in surprise and said, "How do you know?" Lu Feng had a look of joy on his face. How could he not know that it was this person, a good teacher, who went to sea to do business, and then sold Bibajia, e-books, 8,848 titanium mobile phones, and small pots of tea. As a legend in the marketing world, no one does not know his resounding name. When it comes to marketing alone, Lu Feng can't compare to him. The original depression has completely disappeared at this moment. Although he didn't arrive at Yu Chendong's house, he picked up Du Guoying on the way, which is definitely not a loss. "What about you? What's your name?" the policeman asked the foreigner. "My name is Steve Kevin, and I am currently working at Volkswagen, in charge of international affairs." The foreigner briefly introduced him. Steve Kevin? Lu Feng had also heard of this person, and he helped the public with a lot of international affairs. What is this? Double happiness? The corners of Lu Feng's mouth curled up, and an involuntary look of joy appeared on his face. "And you?" "My name is Lu Feng. Actually, this matter is not a big deal, it's just a misunderstanding," Lu Feng said with a relaxed expression. "This matter is complicated, let's not talk about it. As for the camera, I will pay. You can't just look at it? Why bother with each other? It's a big New Year's Eve." After the police finished speaking, They looked at Kevin and said, "This person is responsible. How much is the camera? He will pay according to the bill." Kevin sighed, nodded in agreement, and said to Lu Feng, "This camera, 16,000. What kind of camera is that expensive?" Du Guoying couldn't help crying. "It's all right, it's just a small amount of money. I don't have that much cash with me, you two come with me." Lu Feng stood up and said to the two of them. "Then it's none of my business, I'll go first." Du Guoying stood up and was about to leave. "Cook duck, can Lu Feng let him fly?" "Don't be in a hurry, it's a special fate for the three of us to meet one for the Chinese New Year, so let's be the host. How about having a meal together?" Lu Feng suggested. It was the first time that Du Guoying had seen such a generous person. She didn't have to lose money, she could eat a meal together, and looking at Lu Feng's clothes, she looked like a boss. "Okay," Du Guoying nodded in agreement. In his eyes, Lu Feng just wanted to get on the line with this foreigner, and he was just a slobber. Kevin was very reluctant to eat this meal, and he could see that, since Lu Feng heard of his identity, things that were difficult to do were immediately easier to do. The problem is that if you want to get the compensation for the camera, you have to eat this meal with others. I am reluctant, but I nodded and agreed. Lu Feng looked at the two of them with a smile, thinking to himself that he had something to do this year. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 738. Lu Feng led the two of them out of the police station and glanced at the two people beside them. They had different expressions. Lu Feng could guess what they were thinking. Du Guoying was overjoyed. He obviously felt that he had gotten a meal, while Kevin felt that he had a high status. Feng wanted to take the opportunity to curry favor with him. "It's a good thing for the three of us to meet one another during the Chinese New Year. Let me briefly introduce myself." Lu Feng stopped, cleared his throat, put his posture first, and said, "My name is Lu Feng, is now the chairman of Jiafeng Electronics Group." Du Guoying stared at Lu Feng a few times, but did not expect that the other party was still the boss at such a young age, and hurriedly stretched out her hand and said, "Hello, hello. Look at what's going on today, I will definitely pay attention to riding a motorcycle in the future." "It's okay, it's all fate," Lu Feng said with a smile. Kevin was secretly surprised that Lu Feng was still the boss of a big company. His face softened a lot, and he said, "It's not intentional, I'm also responsible, otherwise, if I take the camera to repair, how much will the repair cost?" "You can give as much as you want." "No need. Don't say 10,000 or 20,000. 35,000 is not money." Lu Feng said to the two of them, "It's mainly fate. Fate is worth $1,000. Let's go eat first." When he got to the car, Du Guoying found a place to store his motorcycle. Lu Feng drove the car straight to the Jiangguo Hotel. On the way, Lu Feng asked Kevin, the co-pilot, "How long have you been in Huaxia?" "I've been here since 1980, mainly to coordinate market issues in Asia and be in charge of international affairs." Kevin said that he was not much worse than Lu Feng, who hasn't made a point of comparison. Du Guoying, who was sitting in the back row, didn't dare to speak. He seemed to have smashed the two big guys into candied haws with the accelerator today. "You speak Chinese well. We have been developing well in the world recently, but we are in home appliances, electronics, and communications. We provide solutions to other manufacturers in China and help other companies. Internationally, we recently cooperated with Rome Semiconductor. Manufacturers like Sony and Motorola are also talking about it." Lu Feng sighed and said, "It's not easy for companies to do well, we are now mainly in Asia and Africa." Du Guoying was a little silly sitting in the back. Kevin originally wanted to say that he is an international business, and you are at most a local company. I don't know much about electronics, but the unit price of home appliances is low, the technical content is not high, and the market competition is relatively large. Kevin sat in the co-pilot. As an automobile person, he still has his own. Honestly, I think that the automobile industry is a reflection of the foundation of heavy industry, and I don't look down on other industries. That's not quite right. The car is so simple. Isn't it just 4 wheels and a few sofas? Lu Feng parked the car in front of the hotel and said, I always think that big things are easier to do, the more the smaller it is, the harder it is to do it. As for the Volkswagen, I personally don't look good. When we get to the place, let's get out of the car and eat first. Kevin was 10,000 unhappy in his heart. He was a home appliance maker, so why would he say that the public can't do it? Lu Feng entered the hotel. I asked for a private room, sat down and ordered food and wine. Kevin sat there for a while and said, Mr. Lu, I can't agree with what you just said. We are a global company. No, I'm not saying that the world is not global. I'm not very optimistic about the future car market. Lu Feng leaned back, took out the cigarette from his pocket and put it on the table. It's a car. Big ones, not TVs, VCDs, and other products. Rich families replace them within a year and a half, and those who don't have the money will replace them after a few years. It's not that expensive, and it doesn't hurt to replace them. How much is a Jetta now? Jetta is still more expensive now, and Fujian is cheap. Du Guoying sat next to him and became excited. Obviously, he also wanted to own a car. After thinking about it, he said, Fujian can land at more than 150,000 yuan now. If I remember correctly, the Jetta is more than 180,000, the Santana is in the early 200,000s, and the high-profile ones are 240,000 to 50,000. Lu Feng looked at him and asked, how many people in the world do you think can afford it? Even if you can afford it, how long will a car last? I think what Boss Lu said is right. Buying a car and going back is like marrying a daughter-in-law and going there for the rest of your life. Du Guoying is very optimistic about Lu Feng's statement. Kevin does not agree with Lu Feng's point of view, but he does not know how to say that in developed countries, car consumption is still very considerable. Cars are good, they are definitely good, but the future development direction of cars is definitely not private cars, Lu Feng said to Kevin, and car companies around the world will definitely experience a wave of bankruptcy, and there will be a few companies left in the future. Enough is enough. What is the key development? In terms of transportation, it is still buses, subways, public travel, etc., just like public telephones. There is no way to refute Lu Feng's view. At present, global auto sales are mainly concentrated in developed countries, and the market saturation of developed countries has reached its peak. The rapid development of public transportation is also advocated by many countries. If the global economic growth is slow, then private cars are an identity tool for the upper-class rich. Kevin couldn't refute Lu Feng's point of view, so he smiled and said, who knows what will happen in the future? This is foreseeable. I also think that in the next few years, your salary and scope of work will basically peak. Cars are different from electronics. Now is the era of rapid development of electronics and the internet. Lu Feng glanced at Du Guoying and said, it is the era of Intel, and we are the company behind Intel. Mr. Lu, I'll give you a toast. Du Guoying picked up the glass and said, it's really eye-opening to hear what you said. You don't look much older than me, and the gap between people is too big. There is no difference. In fact, life choices are really important. Lu Feng put one hand on the back of his chair and said, I am 27 this year, how about you? I'm 25, Du Guoying replied. I'm at your age, and I don't have anything. I don't mean to drink some wine and brag with you. When I go to my father-in-law's house, the whole town laughs at me for being poor. Lu Feng said to Du Guoying, I found my way, Seized the opportunity. Guess what? It was posted with a click, and in a few years, I was a world-famous person. Oh, I really envy you. When will I have luck? Du Guoying's words were full of envy. Kevin has been in Chinese New Year for many years. He knows all about the situation at the wine table. Lu Feng's attitude is obviously the kind of person who likes to talk shit. And it's a particularly flamboyant outfit. Global famous person, Kevin couldn't help laughing. He had been in the global trading system for half his life, and he had never heard of this person, so he said, "Why haven't I heard of it?" "Your level is too low, I don't blame you," Lu Feng looked at him and said. Kevin's face turned green when he heard this. Is his level too low? There is a saying that men are afraid of entering the wrong profession, and women are afraid of marrying the wrong man. The choice is very important, Lu Feng said to Kevin. If you continue to stay in the public, within 5 years, you will be ruined. Kevin found that Du Guoying had been stunned for a while, and felt that he had to rescue this naive young man, and said, "Everyone will say that the global auto industry is a big system. As for private cars, development, or public transportation, no one knows. I'm just saying that I'm the president of Volkswagen. Young man, don't listen to one-sided words." Du Guoying was a little embarrassed to hear this. Even if Lu Feng was bragging, he would invite guests to dinner. "Your Chinese is really good," Lu Feng praised Kevin. "It's good to say it, it's true. I just think it's fateful to celebrate the new year. As for cars, it's just my thinking about the industry, but I'm in the international arena. I still know a lot of people, and if there is a need for cooperation, you can chat." Du Guoying saw that others were opening their mouths to the international industry and closed their industries. He had always wanted to find a good job, but could not find a space to mention it. Kevin smiled and said, "Besides, I still have to thank Mr. Lu for his hospitality. This camera." "Small things, can I still pay you?" Lu Feng said, lighting a cigarette. "Tomorrow will be New Year's Eve. Do you two have a place to celebrate the new year?" "I just came here not long ago, and I don't have any relatives or friends," Du Guoying said with embarrassment. "Let's live by myself." "What about you?" Lu Feng said to Kevin. Kevin just wanted to take some photos of traditional Chinese New Year activities, and he would fly abroad to complete other work after the year, but he also saw that the compensation for his camera was not so easy to get. "It's fine," Kevin spread his hands. "Otherwise, I'm going to celebrate the new year alone. How about going to my house?" Lu Feng suggested to the two of them. "I'll buy some minced meat tomorrow, and the three of us will make dumplings." "Kevin, don't you want to learn about traditional culture?" "I'm familiar, I'm the director of the Traditional Culture Association." Kevin was already excited when he saw Du Guoying. He seemed to feel that he was in the company of a big boss. He had nothing to do. Anyway, he was idle. "Let's leave our contact information and meet again tomorrow." Lu Feng took out his business card from his pocket and handed it to the two of them. "I have a phone number from my office and my family." After paying the bill and leaving the hotel door, Lu Feng greeted the two of them and drove away. Du Guoying was very excited when he looked at the business card. Before he came here, someone told him that Shenzhen was full of opportunities. Here comes it. "Young man," Kevin walked up and said to Du Guoying, "don't listen to him. Shenzhen is a place where dragons and snakes are mixed, and everyone has it." "Don't be deceived," Kevin said to him. "I've been around the world for many years, and I've seen all kinds of people. People like this are typical liars." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 739. Du Guoying didn't know how to answer. He also felt that this matter was unreliable. How could there be such a good thing in the world? He bumped into someone, but he met a big boss. Not only did he not lose money, he also had a good meal. Anyone who hears this thing feels mysterious, but it happens so real. At first, Du Guoying also thought that the other party was a liar, and then thought about it, what is there to be deceived by the other party? It seems that if you want money or not, you want someone. Thank you for reminding me. Du Guoying smiled and nodded and said, I think Boss Lu is very good. I will definitely give you money tomorrow on New Year's Eve. Don't worry. Kevin sighed when he heard about the money, and thought to himself that it would be fine. Although there was a lot of money, he wouldn't be led by the nose. Kevin did not speak, stopped a taxi and went back. Lu Feng went back to the company and sat there at night thinking about the two of them. Du Guoying should have quit his job as a teacher and went to work in the sea, and Kevin happened to be in charge of Volkswagen's international affairs in Asia at this time. As long as these two people are brought together, the head of the marketing department of the pager and the head of international affairs are all in place. Lu Feng lay on the sofa and sighed in relief. He was still worried, and both sides need him after the new year. The clone is lacking, and now it seems that everything is the best arrangement. Du Guoying is a bit easier to say. He was poor, and he showed the strength of the company a little bit, and he came obediently. The problem is that Kevin, who is in a high position now, wants to win him over. It takes a little bit of skill. On the night of the 29th day of the Chinese New Year, the sound of gun battles resounded throughout the night sky. At this moment, thousands of houses were reunited with lights, waiting for the New Year's Eve tomorrow. The next morning, Du Guoying was the first to call Lu Feng. He was embarrassed on the phone, but he still wanted to have a New Year's Eve dinner. Then take a taxi. I just woke up. Lu Feng asked towards the phone. Did that foreigner leave a phone call for you yesterday? Brother, I can't climb up with others, Du Guoying said helplessly. He's the boss of a big company, so I can't speak. It's all right, come here first, come directly to the company. 5th floor, the chairman's office, Lu Feng instructed him. Half an hour later, Du Guoying came up. Looking at such a big company, he was still quite shocked. It could be seen that Jiafeng Electronics was very big. Although it was already on vacation, there were only 100 people on duty. A receptionist on duty led him to the 5th floor, knocked on the door of the chairman's office, and said, Mr. Lu, there is a guest looking for you. Come in. After speaking, Lu Feng got up from the sofa and walked towards the desk. Pushing the door open, Du Guoying walked in. Seeing such a luxurious office, she naturally spoke a little bit short, with a smile on her face, her hands clasped together nervously, and said, Mr. Lu, Happy New Year. You can sit wherever you want. Lu Feng pointed to the sofa over there. I'm sorry about what happened yesterday. Du Guoying sat down and said a little annoyed, I will definitely pay attention to cycling in the future. It's okay, it's all over. Lu Feng took out a pack of cigarettes from the drawer, lit one for himself, and put the cigarette in front of him and said, Smoke. Wait for that foreigner, he's here, the three of us. One piece to buy vegetables and make dumplings. No problem, I'll listen to your arrangement. Du Guoying behaved rather well behaved. Let me tell you, I didn't intend to pay that money yesterday. I only agreed to pay when I heard that it was him. I'm telling you so, he said on his desk. This person is famous internationally, and my company lacks a person like him right now, you understand? When Lu Feng said this, Du Guoying fully understood. He was still thinking about this last night. For no reason, he was losing money, and he was treating guests to dinner. Rich people are rich, so it's not a big deal. Understood, Du Guoying said hurriedly, I just want to make a fool of myself. Let him resign from there and come to work with you, right? Resign can be taught. Lu Feng was very optimistic about him and said, what do you think should be done? He pondered for a while, then said, it's hunting now. Circle him first, and say slowly, what you said yesterday is good, but the industry prospects are not good. If I finish listening, I have to think about it when I go back. Ponder. Hunting. Lu Feng grinned, revealing a row of snow-white teeth and smoking from his nostrils. He knocked the ashes into the ashtray casually. I'm just afraid that he won't come today. You saw it yesterday. This man is so good in Chinese, and he doesn't like that. Lu Feng sighed, looking a little helpless, and said, he came today, I am the only one. No one can convince him. Don't worry, I can cooperate with you, Du Guoying said proactively. I have an idea, do you want to listen? But it doesn't matter, Lu Feng looked at him with a smile. He liked someone like him who wanted to trick him. It's still a continuation of your practice of suppressing the future of the industry yesterday, but you have to add a little more. When I was teaching at school, some students who were very good at learning and were more expansive, I usually used this method. Compare the better ones with him. Catch his shortcomings and speak out in public. Du Guoying seemed to let go of his thoughts and continued, my idea is to continue suppressing the future of the industry, and at the same time mention a person who is similar to him, but after choosing a different industry, the two people with a huge gap will stimulate him, forming a distinct in contrast. This way this foreigner is enough to see. Lu Feng nodded frequently. This is the advantage of talent. He has his own way of thinking, and he can understand a lot of things. That's right, you have a good head. Lu Feng glanced at the time. It was already past 10 o'clock in the morning, and Kevin still didn't call. If he really gave up the more than 10,000 yuan, he would have done it himself. Big loss. It's better to call their company and I'll contact him. Lu Feng sighed and was about to call and ask. Kevin was a little confused when he sat at home after breakfast. More than 10,000 yuan was not a lot for him, but this was the end of the matter. He always felt that he was holding his breath. Similar to Lu Feng. After thinking about it, Kevin still decided that he should face it. He didn't believe it anymore. He just remembered one thing and asked for money. What else could he do to himself? Picked up the phone and dialed the number on the business card. Lu Feng picked up the phone and said, who is it? Is it Lu Feng? Kevin asked on the other end of the phone. As soon as Lu Feng heard his voice, he turned his face to Du Guoying and smiled. The big fish just came, and the two fish just entered the net. All covered? Yeah, where have you been? I mean, go buy some food or something today. Lu Feng said to the phone, I'm with Du Guoying now. Are you coming to the company or going directly to the vegetable market? You tell me the place, I'll go directly, I won't go to the vegetable market. Okay, let's meet at my house then. Lu Feng told him the location of the villa, and after hanging up the phone, he said to Du Guoying, let's go shopping, and add up your thoughts at the same time. The two went downstairs and went straight to the vegetable market. Today's food was really expensive, and there were very few food sellers. They bought a lot of things, and moved a case of red wine. Lu Feng drove home. At the door of the villa, Kevin has already arrived. Today, he is dressed in a festive dress, and bows his hands to Lu Feng. Good luck in the year of the dog. The year of the dog is prosperous, Du Guoying said politely. Let's get things in first. Lu Feng opened the trunk and said, I'm busy with my own work. After the new year, there must be a taste of the new year. Du Guoying helped carry things. Lu Feng opened the door. A thin layer of dust had fallen inside, and he seemed to know that no one had lived there for a while. Kevin entered the house, looked around, and said cautiously to Lu Feng, are you sure this is your house? Didn't you just find a house with no one and just come in? Take me just opening a house and bring you two to celebrate the new year. Lu Feng looked at him suspiciously and smiled and said, Mr. Kevin, you don't need to be so vigilant, I don't eat people. Actually, I'm here today because I don't want to be alone in such a family reunion day. It's not because of the more than 10,000 yuan. Kevin feels something is not right. The house seems to have been unoccupied for a while. Yes, if Lu Feng opens the lock and takes him in, he will be held responsible for something wrong. For a boss like you, it's not money, right? For me, it's not really money. There's no need to lose face because of this little money. Kevin wanted to use his face to stimulate Lu Feng, so he found an excuse to leave after getting the money. It doesn't matter. I'm the person. Lu Feng imitated his accent and pointed at his face, shameless. Du Guoying was amused by Lu Feng's accent, and she handed something to Kevin and said, "Just the money, let's talk about it after dinner. Can he still give it to you? It's really not good, you drive him away. The three of us, it's really fateful, it's not easy to get together for the new year, and besides, I found that Boss Lu is very talkative and has no air." Both of them said that they were themselves, and Kevin couldn't stand it either. The three of them were busy for a long time. Du Guoying was relatively handy and talked a lot. He talked and laughed with Lu Feng. The room was full of laughter, and the atmosphere seemed to be harmonious. Kevin also slowly put down his guard, took a small plastic bench and sat there picking beans. Lu Feng was cooking, and Du Guoying was cutting vegetables. Certain effect.